it to you. All right, so as some of you know, as some of you know, we've been in a series called A Path to Peace, The Path to Peace. And this is part 6, the final in that series. And I'm start by talking about this beautiful book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Peace is Every Step. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a very well-known, old book. Thich Nhat Hanh was a great Buddhist monk and teacher. And in the book, he asked the question, are you sure you want peace? He asked the question sincerely, knowing that peace has a real price attached. It's not a matter of sitting on the meditation cushion, even though that's a good starting place. It's not a matter of simply keeping quiet or staying out of the fight. Peace is not passive. Peace is active. Peace is a way of being, of responding, of acting, of speaking, of listening, of thinking. In the African culture, the highest praise that can be given to anyone is Ubuntu. This is the acknowledgement that he or she has the wonderful quality of Ubuntu. Ubuntu refers to a way of regarding other people and understanding one's place in the community. Ubuntu expresses the essence of what it is to be human. Its definition has 2 parts. First is that the person is friendly, hospitable, kind, gentle, caring, and compassionate. People who have Ubuntu will use their strengths on behalf of others, the weak, the poor, or the sick. They will not take advantage of anyone. They treat others as they desire to be treated, so they also embody the second part of the definition: openness, big-heartedness, and generosity. People with Ubuntu share who they are, their ideas, gifts, talents, and wealth. In doing so, they become one with other people, both in spirit and in their shared humanity. People with Ubuntu are not threatened by the goodness or greatness of others because their sense of self-worth is absolute. You see, they see themselves as reflections of the community's inherent value. I and we are interchangeable ideas. They know they're part of the greater whole. Ubuntu says, I am human because I belong. Our relationships and our community, they say, teach us what it means to be fully human. In Ubuntu, the solitary, isolated human being is a contradiction in terms. When we really know how much we depend on one another, our natural tendency is to be cooperative and helpful. Without this cooperative interdependence, we would have died out as a species long ago. But we have not. We have kept on, despite the evil and the wars that have brought so much suffering and misery down the centuries. We have survived because the human soul, by its nature, strives for harmony and community. In our heart of hearts, we know that we either live or die as a family. And from the great Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Emeritus of Cape Town, South Africa, anger, resentment, a lust for revenge, greed, even the aggressive competitiveness that rules so much of our contemporary world corrodes and jeopardizes our harmony. A person with Ubuntu knows that those who seek to destroy and dehumanize are also victims. usually of a pervading ethos, be it a political ideology, an economic system, or a distorted religious conviction. Consequently, perpetrators are as much dehumanized as those on whom they trample. Christianity's corresponding teaching is beautifully expressed in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. At the beginning of the magnificent Sermon on the Mount, Jesus lays out the Beatitudes, guidelines and blessings for wholeness. Among them is this: blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Ubuntu describes a pure heart perfectly. It is friendly, hospitable, kind, gentle, caring, compassionate, open, and generous. A pure heart is also single-minded in faith, as we heard this morning. It knows, not in the head, but deep down, that God is the life force, cause, and completion of all that is. That God is the only real power, and that power is absolute, unchanging good. But what does it mean to see God? God is not a physical being, right? So obviously the passage cannot be understood literally. To see, in the metaphysical sense, is to have spiritual perception. A pure heart gives us the capacity to comprehend the deeper truth beneath and beyond the physical appearance of things. When I was a young child studying catechism in Catholic school, we were asked the question, what is heaven? And the rote answer was, heaven is the place where God is. The next question in the catechism was, well, where is God? And the answer, God is everywhere. Interesting. Even as we were taught to believe that heaven is a place where we might go when we die, we were also taught that heaven is where God is, and God is everywhere. So doesn't it just follow that heaven is all around us? Then why is it that we can't see it all the time? Because heaven exists in the realm of spirit, where people do not age or decay, where nothing is ever destroyed. With our physical eyes, we cannot see this. We see just the opposite. We're like colorblind people in the garden. All we see is black and white and gray. So our perception of the garden is very limited. To see God is to know that the world is far more than we can see with our human eyes. It is to comprehend the love and order behind and beneath all experiences, all relationships, all events, all things. For example, with spiritual sight, we're able to see that life is eternal. We know this in the face of the appearance of death. Sometimes it's only this kind of sight that keeps us going. When a loved one dies or something horrible happens in the world, we are devastated in our human hearts. And the only thing that can lift us up is remembering the greater truth that we human beings are essentially spirit, and spirits do not die. We may be changed in form, but our existence cannot end. Big idea. But when we grasp it at a gut level, it turns our lives upside down. The things that we once deeply worried about have little or no power to shake our world. We see the hand of God in everything that happens. Even when we cannot feel the presence of God in our moments of upset, we know We will feel it the moment the emotional fog lifts. There is a place underneath our emotional turmoil where we feel protected and safe. The challenge of wholehearted living seems to me to be a profound paradox. How do we fully embrace our humanity and the material world we inhabit, and at the same time live in the greater truth that we are, in our essence, spiritual beings living in a spiritual world? It's like we need a kind of double vision, right? Right. That's exactly what Charles Fillmore called it. Double vision. Years ago, I had 2 cats. I promise you this is going somewhere. Their names were Cora and Roy. They were both named after Fillmore's. And I thought of them while working on this message, maybe because in hindsight, I think they may have been human beings in cat costumes. Adorable and incredibly annoying at one and the same time. Roy was a demander. He couldn't rest until his demands were met. I remember our daily morning ritual. Very early each day, Roy would jump up on the bed, get right in my face, and I mean right in my face, and tell me in that unique feline whine of his that it was time for me to get up and let him go outside. So, of course, I would drag my tired body out of the bed and let him out. But here's the thing about Roy. No sooner did he get outside than he began to whine to come back inside. Anybody else have cats?
Yes.
Been there? Right.
Yes. Same thing.
This little ritual was repeated throughout the day and unfortunately sometimes throughout the night. So aren't we like Roy at times? Unhappy with whatever side of the door we're on. Don't like our jobs, so we quit only to fret about being out of work. Can't wait to retire and then complain about being bored. We get married and unmarried and married again. Can't you imagine that the universe might be a bit confused about what we really want? Then there's Cora. Cora's personality was entirely comprised of her mood. Now I've quit preaching and gone to meddling, I just want you to know. If relaxed and content, she was loving. If uptight or nervous, she could be downright mean. And she only liked 2 people, Sepp and me. She was really pretty, so lots of people wanted to pet her, but she refused all advances but ours. She growled fiercely at others who dared to reach for her. This was pretty scary, and so pretty soon, no one tried to touch her anymore. Cora had found a way to manage her fear. She had decreased the level of risk in her life. She had also shrunk her world into a tiny, lonely box. Phew, I thought, there's a whole lot of that going on these days. Yeah, humans in cat costumes, those 2. Buddhist philosophy reminds us that peace is not difficult for those who have no preferences. I'm not sure if anyone ever reaches a state of having no preferences, but I believe the principle is right on. Until we're able to spend at least as much energy appreciating the gifts and people in our lives as we do complaining about what is wrong or missing, we will remain in Roy and Cora boxes, containers that can hold only a few random tidbits of peace and happiness. That word, appreciation. So powerful, yet so often forgotten and underrated. When you really think about it, can there actually be peace without appreciation? So what is it exactly? So my favorite definition is this. Appreciation is a state of mind, very important. It's a state of mind in which we savor life and spontaneously express gratitude for the contributions of others. Sounds simple enough. Except for our tendency to be like Roy, so fixated on the world on the other side of the door that we cannot see the blessings that are right in front of our faces. Or maybe it's because we're more like Korah, afraid to fully give and receive the gifts that others are offering. Expressing appreciation. Now that's something that intrigues me. It makes us feel so vulnerable to express appreciation. It's so interesting to me. For example, we easily tell others what we love about our partners. We can tell umpteen prosperity stories about life with them. Nor do we have trouble thanking our friends and colleagues. And if you're in unity, you probably give thanks to God endlessly every day. When it comes to telling those, though, those we love the most, specifically what we value about them and how much they enrich our lives, we hesitate. Funny. It's not that hard to tell them what bugs us about them. Did you ever think that maybe our complaints somehow make us feel safer? That maybe they're a way of reassuring ourselves that our loved one is not that important to us. After all, we wouldn't die if they went away, right? Is it possible that sometimes we even push people away to be rid of the fear of losing them? So strange, so human, so subconscious. When I think about it, Roy was always a restless creature. Restless nearly every waking moment. And so are most of us. Without a pure heart, you see, we are never free. We're so encumbered by our fears and demanding preferences that it's hard to appreciate ourselves just as we are, much less those closest to us. In our restlessness, there is always something else over the horizon. To me, this restlessness is the opposite of peace. Not war, restlessness. Because peace is not something that we seek and find. Peace is something we are. A grateful heart is a peaceful heart because it sees and savors how green the grass is on this side of the fence. Now, gratitude, thank God for me, I don't know, you all are probably much more involved than I am, but I'm really grateful that gratitude does not mean liking everything that happens or everything somebody does.
Right.
Some conditions are so painful and difficult, we are doing well just to get through them. Are you with me?
Yes.
Right. Sometimes people absolutely refuse to live by the script we have written for them. Thus, we are disappointed. Well, we don't have to like it. We don't have to call something good when everything in us thinks it's just awful. Gratitude is not rose-colored glasses. It, too, is rife with paradox. It is the ability to honor our pain and disappointment while at the same exact time savoring our blessings. It is both open-eyed and soft-hearted. Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics says that our spiritual well-being depends on our understanding that our task is not to set things right, but to see them right. Maybe seeing things right is the same as seeing God in everything. Well, one thing for sure, it requires a higher and broader perspective. Okay, we've done everything else, so it's time for a little Hinduism. Shiva and Shakti, the divine couple, are in their heavenly abode watching over the earth. They're touched by the challenges of human life, the complexity of human emotions, and the ever-present place of suffering in the human experience. As they watch, Shakti spies a miserably poor man walking down a road. His clothes are shabby, his sandals held together with rope. His heart, their heart, Shakti's heart in particular, is filled with compassion. And so she turns to her divine husband and begs him to give the man some gold. Shiva looks at the man for a long moment. "My dear wife," he says, "I cannot do that." Shakti is astounded. "Why, what do you mean, husband? You are Lord of the universe. Why can't you do this simple thing?" "I cannot give gold to him because he is not yet ready to receive it," Shiva replies. Shakti becomes angry. "Do you mean to say that you cannot drop a bag of gold in this path in a place where he will surely find it?" "Sure I can," Shiva replies, "but it will not help him." So she shifts, like we women do, into pleading. "Please, husband," says Shakti. And so Shiva gives in and drops a bag of gold in the man's path. The poor man, meanwhile, is walking along, thinking to himself, "I wonder if I will find something for dinner tonight, or will I have to go hungry again?" Turning a bend in the road, he sees something in his path. "Ah," he says to himself, "look there, a large rock in the road. How fortunate that I have seen it, or I might have stumbled and torn these poor sandals of mine even further." And so he carefully steps over the bag of gold and continues on his way. The moral? We cannot always trust our interpretations of things, because we see situations and people not as they are, but as we are. And we don't even realize it. We don't know what we don't know. We can't see that we're missing the bag of gold right in front of our faces. We believe our perceptions are the truth. So here's the thing. Again, I'm preaching at myself, so if you're with me, great. The thing is, we're never going to find happiness and peace with our logical thinking minds. We will never understand why people do what they do, or why things are the way they are. We will never understand other people. We don't even understand ourselves. Our task is to give up, to surrender, to give up the analysis, which makes a lot of sense since the conclusions we reach are usually wrong anyway. Are you with me? All right. Gratitude doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the spirit and the heart. It is faith in the wisdom of life, faith that there's meaning in the pain and drama, faith that blessings were born in the very kind of fire that we're going through. Gratitude gives us eyes to see a greater reality than the appearances of the moment. It may not take away our pain, but it will take away our hopelessness. It may not get our loved ones to follow our script, trust me, I know, but it opens the possibility that we can learn to love them even when they don't. Love them, not because of what they say or do, but because loving blesses us both. Deepak Chopra said that love is more than a mere sentiment. It is the ultimate truth that we are all one spirit living in different disguises. Ubuntu. Thank you. Now let's prepare for meditation.